Will we ever see another altcoin season again? This is probably the number one question that we are being asked right now in chats and in our Discord. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you why, yes, we will see an altcoin season again, but it might not be what you expect. You got to stick around all the way to the end of the video to find out why. If you enjoy it, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our content. All right, let's go. So we're going to dive right into the content here today. Why are people asking this question over and over and over? And one of the reasons why is a chart right now called the Bitcoin Dominance chart, which just today has eclipsed 65% for the first time in many, many years. And the reality is this chart is probably very far from ending. I am expecting it at least to climb up towards 66, if not start pushing closer towards 70 before we finally see an altcoin season happen again. If you're wondering what I mean by another altcoin season, well, traditionally altcoin seasons are marked where the altcoins dramatically outrun Bitcoin, causing this chart to fall not only dramatically, but doing it very, very quickly. A good example of this would be back in December of 2020 or January 2021. And then the time before that would be February of 2017. Now, while I've addressed these details in several other videos, what I need you to understand about this one is that the next altcoin season is going to be dramatically different. It is going to happen, in my personal opinion. I'll tell you just when and what I'm expecting to go for in the future, but you need to understand if you're grasping a hold of an historical altcoin season, if you're expecting it to look identical to 2021 or 2017, I got some rough news for you. It's not going to be like that. And the reason why is because the 4-year cycle as we know it is over. Pause right there, because a lot of people in the comments right now are saying, Tim, what are you talking about? The 4-year cycle is still very much intact. And the answer is no, it is not. I'm not saying we won't still have bull markets and bear markets. I'm not saying that there won't be some sort of a sell-off that happens when the top of the 4-year cycle comes into play again, maybe in September or October of 2025. But the altcoin season that depended upon the 4-year cycle, it's already done and passed, because if the 4-year cycle was still around, we would have seen a major correction back in December of 2024. And even though we began to see that happen, if you go back to my chart here, you'll see that we did see a little correction happen at the end of November, early December. This ended up being a fake out and the markets continued to the upside. Do you want to know why that is? And that's the reason, the answer to this question is why we will never see it again, is that institutions are now here and they have changed the game forever. Everything up into this point, when we're looking at Bitcoin dominance, when we're looking at altcoin seasons, when we're looking at crypto in general, has depended upon retail value. Retail driving the markets up and then deciding when it's time to come back down. There's smart retail investors and there's dumb retail investors, but ultimately it's always been about retail money. And with retail money, we've seen the market cap of crypto back in 2021 eclipse $3 trillion. The problem is now is no longer retail bull market. It is time for the institutions to take over, and take over they are already doing, starting with the death of the 4-year cycle, starting with that concept that retail was depending on to know when to buy and when to sell. They've already crushed it. And with that, they're beginning to make retail investors believe that no altcoin season is coming. Well, the reality is it will come. It's just going to be very different. People are used to a lot of small cap coins, a lot of crazy little meme coins, a lot of coins ranked number 477 doing 100 X's. But the reality is, instead of just seeing a traditional altcoin season when Bitcoin cools off and every altcoin under the sun takes to the upside, the institutional adoption is going to bring quality over hype. I'll say that again. Institutions are going to bring quality over hype. In bull markets past, altcoin season has been driven 130% by the hype of coins. Retail investors wanting to make a quick buck. But the reality is those retail investors were always just following the big money of other retail investors who knew that they could pump and dump coins, stealing liquidity from the other poorer, stupider retail investors. And institutions are just not going to want to play that game. They have rules. They're not going to be investing in a coin called mommy or daddy. They're going to be investing in a coin that actually brings quality to the real world. And that's something that we need to go ahead and grasp right now is it's time to start putting away the childish toys. It's time to start putting away the pump and dumps. It's time to start investing in quality. Right now, if you were to go to CoinMarketCap, you'll find that the top 20 coins hold more than 90% of the value of all of cryptocurrency. As we're kind of teetering right beneath $3 trillion, 90% of it or a little bit more is in the top 20 alone. Why? Because institutions will only invest in the actual quality coins, and they're going to let the cream rise to the top. I predict that by 2035, the top 20 will hold more than 99% of the total market cap. And while I don't think that necessarily there's not going to be plays for smaller coins to make here and there, what we're talking about with true altcoin seasons, sustained long-term bullish movements, only the best of the best, only the quality coins are actually going to make it. And you start to ask the question, what are the quality coins that we're even going to be talking about? Well, I want to bring your attention to a couple of articles here that are going to have some major impact on what those coins are. We talked about this one the other day, but Security Commissioners, the SEC Commissioner, Hester Peirce said that tokenization is a technology that could significantly transform the financial markets. Pause right there. Let's talk about that. Tokenization is going to reform the complete financial markets. Do you guys know how much money are in the financial markets at the moment? When it comes to the stock market globally, over $124 trillion sits in the stock market. The volume annually is over $130 trillion being traded back and forth and back and forth. What Hester Peirce is saying here is that the future of that market will be tokenization in cryptocurrency. You know what you need for tokenization? Quality layer ones and real world asset plays. But that's not the only thing. If you go into real estate, this is another part of financial markets. In 2022, we had $380 trillion invested in real estate, and that was before all of the crazy inflation that's happened. Realistically, we're probably sitting north of $400 trillion. So that brings us up over $500 trillion of money right now invested in the financial markets that are going to rely upon tokenization. What does that mean? That means you need to look for layer ones and real world assets that have massive upside. Let's go to CoinMarketCap right here so I can show you a couple of the coins that we're talking about. Layer ones being like the roadway of cryptocurrency, the things that you can build on. Just like a highway on a road, you have to drive on it to get from point A to point B. No cryptocurrency can do anything real until there's an established, strong layer one solution. And some of the examples of these would be like Ethereum, currently with a market cap of $213 billion. This might not be your greatest investment, seeing as that even if we were to make it all the way to $1 trillion, we're talking about less than a 5x from here. But that's a great example. Another good example of a layer one would be Solana, currently at $74 billion. Another good example, Cardano, $23 billion. Sui, the hottest, new, sexiest layer one solution, only $10 billion. What I want you to understand is that these layer ones will be used dramatically in the next 5 to 10 years, and the market cap on layer ones alone will probably shoot to tens of trillions of dollars in total. These little 10 billion, 20 billion, $70 billion market caps will shoot up into the hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars. And right now, you have an opportunity to go buy those layer ones at ridiculously cheap levels. Here's the flip side, though. The other coins you're going to want to look at is if the tokenization requires the layer ones like Sui, Solana, and Ethereum, what about the actual real-world asset plays, the coins that will actually be utilized in transitioning all of these coins into tokenization? Transitioning all of this money into tokenization. For this, we're looking at coins like XRP that currently has a market cap of $124 billion. Again, are your returns on XRP going to be as good as maybe some of these other coins I'm talking about? Maybe not, but this is a project right here that in the next couple of years will be worth trillions, and right now its market cap is only worth 124 billion. The ones that I'm more excited about would be like Chainlink, sitting just south of 9 billion, AVAX sitting at 8 billion, even Ondo all the way down here, going to be one of the biggest plays, is sitting at 2.6 billion dollars. When institutions start buying, do not be surprised to see all three of these real-world asset plays shoot up into the hundreds of billions of dollars, if not start rivaling in the next 5 years $1 trillion each. Why? Because Hester Peirce knows that the future of finance does rely upon the real-world assets and the layer ones tokenizing all of this money. And we got over $500 trillion worth of finances to tokenize. That's a whole lot of money flowing into the crypto space. That doesn't mean go buy mommy coin. That doesn't mean go buy a brand new coin that promises a really cool community. That means go after the same projects, the same technology that institutions are adopting as we move into the next phase of technology in the world. That is tokenization. Now, you might be saying, Tim, this sounds amazing. I want to go buy a lot of these coins. When is going to be the best time to do it? And that's where we kind of get into, will there be another altcoin season? Yes, there will be, but it's not happening just yet. I made a video last week where I talked about how the altcoin season will probably be delayed a little bit longer than some of you want. That doesn't mean that altcoins can't rally slightly, but what I mean by altcoin season is, when will altcoins go parabolic, 2xing, 3xing, 4xing in a matter of maybe a month? That's going to have to wait until liquidity comes back. And even though we see some signs right now of easing tensions in the tariffs between countries like America and China, we still see a lot of concern when it comes from the Fed cutting rates. And ultimately, until they cut rates, it's going to be very hard to add liquidity. You might still see institutions run to a form of value like Bitcoin, but until they see liquidity coming back and they're ready for growth, they might not be as interested in buying into the Links and Ondos and Suis and Solanas. But when that liquidity comes back, it will be crazy. There was a report that came out earlier today from Paul Tudor Jones. If you go to my screen here, he says that the stock market will hit new lows even if Trump cuts China tariffs to 50%. He said, for me, it's pretty clear. You have Trump, who's locked in on tariffs. You have the Fed, who's locked in on not cutting rates. That's not good for the stock market. We'll probably go down to new lows even when Trump dials back China to 50%. He'll dial it back to 50% or 40%, whatever. Even when he does that, it'd be the largest tax increase since the 60s. So you can kind of take 2%, 3% off of the growth. He clarifies and then says with his last statement, unless they got really dovish, talking about the Fed, unless they got really dovish and really cut, you're probably going to get new lows. And then when we're at new lows, the hard days will start to follow, and it'll probably create the Fed to move, create Trump to move, and then we will get some kind of reality. What's the reality he's talking about here? He's talking about liquidity. Ultimately, what Tudor Jones is saying here is we are sitting in a stalemate where we have the president of the United States very firm in his positions, but you also have the Federal Reserve very firm in their positions. And until one of them budges, you have tariffs increasing inflation, you have the Fed refusing to cut rates. Where's the liquidity and extra money coming in to buy the next wave of assets? He's talking about the stock market, but what he's really mentioning when he says the stock market, he's talking about the future of technology. And tokenization is the future of technology. But until there's liquidity, the heavy investments might not come. Now, I'm not predicting brand new lows for crypto. I do think a lot of the pullbacks, the bottoms are in. But this video is about altcoin season. And until we get liquidity flowing back into the markets, until there's extra money to spend and a level of consistency to the markets that make these institutions comfortable on investing into these layer ones and real world asset plays, we're going to have to deal with some volatility, some slow but sure movements to the upside. But when that liquidity happens, get ready. Altcoin season, quality over hype, will take off like a rocket ship, and you don't want to miss out. I talked about in the last video that I made here on the channel, different coins and levels that I'm buying. But if you want to know more about how I'm investing right now for the future in cryptocurrency, you're going to want to join our VIP trading group where each and every single day I trade the markets. I show you what's looking hot and what's not. I also explain how to build a proper portfolio so that you're ready for the altcoin season when it does inevitably come. If you want to know more about it, check out the link down below. But with that said, that's all I have for you in this video. I'll see you in the next one. Adios. Well, look at there. You made it to the end of the video, which means you probably did enjoy it. So right now, go and smash that like button and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our content. But if you want to go deeper, if you want to learn more about what I think and the rest of our team thinks on the markets, the daily news, and what's going on in the charts, make sure to check out our VIP trading group, where every single day we are discussing everything going on. We're going live several times a day to answer all of your questions and set up several trades to make money no matter what the markets look like. Go sign up right now with that link down below. I'll see you over there.